Welcome, everyone, to our Elevating Student Competence and Patient Safety Through State-of-the-Art CPR Simulation Technology and Analytics webinar. We are thrilled to have so many OADN members joining. Thank you. The Resuscitation Quality Improvement Program uses a self-directed, low-dose, high-frequency learning model that guides students to achieve resuscitation competence and confidence. During this program, your learning objectives will be how the RQI program can help your students achieve CPR mastery, and to formulate a plan to evaluate the adoption of the RQI program at your school. First, Betsy Mallon from RQI Partners will go over what drove more than 20 schools across the US to adopt the RQI program. Then Kim Flatlin from RQI Partners as well. We'll talk with guest speakers Katie Carmichael, Director of Simulation at WSU Tech, and Kaylin Carter, Simulation Lab Coordinator at WSU Tech. They will both share their RQI adoption journey and answer your questions about this transformational approach to mastery learning of CPR. All along the conversations, please send your questions in the Q&A section below. We will answer as many as we can live. We will send you a recording of this webinar after the event in your inbox. First, I would like to give the honors to Dr. Karen Lamartina, OADN President, followed up by Rosie Patterson, Vice President of Sales at Laerdal Medical, to introduce this session. Dr. Lamartina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Talia. Welcome, everybody, this afternoon. It's wonderful to see all of these OADN members joining us this afternoon for a great time of learning. I am Karen Lamartina. I'm the current president for the Organization for Associate Degree Nursing. I live here in Kansas. It's fun to see colleagues joining us this afternoon, also from my home state here in Kansas. So I know this is going to be great, and thank you for letting me welcome you.
Hello, my name is Rosie Patterson. I'm the Vice President for Sales for Laerdal Medical. It is a pleasure and an honor to be with you all this afternoon. We're so excited to bring you this wonderful solution that we believe will help with your competency-based education, transformation in curriculum, not to mention student engagement. We also look forward to meeting you all in person at the upcoming OADN conference, where we'll have the actual product that you're going to hear about today on site for your own practice, and you can see it in person. So I'm based in Texas, and I did see a lot of Texas customers on the list today, so welcome. We're in for a really good session here.
Thank you, Karen and Rosie, for these insightful introductory words. Without further ado, Betsy Mallon, Impact Manager at RQI Partners.
Thank you for the introduction, Talia. So before we begin the RQI overview, we would like to learn a little bit more information about you. So we are going to ask 3 questions, and then we're going to do a fun competition. So when you see the question on the next slide, please place your answer in the Q&A, and then don't forget to hit enter. And then we'll give you a few minutes before we move it to the next question. So the first thing we'd like to know is how many students are enrolled in your program annually. So we have less than 100, 100 to 250, or greater than 250. We'll give you a few minutes, and then we will pull up the results here and kind of take a look at what we have. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that. We've got some large numbers there. Okay, so the next question, we want to move to the next question then. How familiar are you with RQI? Is it new to you? Have you just heard of it? How familiar? Maybe you've just been told about the program. Or possibly you're even an advocate, maybe you have an e-credential. So we're looking forward to see what we have out here. Okay, great. So we do have a good many people who have just heard about it and that's new to them. So we are excited to go ahead and we'll be sharing about how this program works. So the next question, witnessing a cardiac arrest can be very traumatic. So we ask, if you had to perform CPR in the next 10 minutes, how confident would you be to be able to perform your CPR skills? Okay, and here we have the results. I am confident and competent. I'm familiar. Oh, and I love it. I love the people who, actually pretty transparent. I would run the other way. Thank you for sharing that. Like I said, it is very traumatic here. And in the moment, okay. So now we do have one other question, and this is going to be for competition. So thank you for participating in our survey, giving us some information. And now for a $25 Amazon gift card. When the next question appears on the screen, whomever is the first person to answer correctly is going to win an Amazon gift card. And you'll be, kind of keeping track of who has the first correct answer. So on our marks, get set, and let's see the question. I'm not seeing the question. The question we want to ask is approximately, there we go. Yes, approximately what % of adults do not survive an in-hospital cardiac arrest? So we're looking for the answer of how many do not survive an in-hospital cardiac arrest.
I see we have some great answers already. I'll let some others answer in the chat.
Yes, we're definitely getting a lot of answers in there. Have you seen the correct answer yet, Talia?
I believe so.
Okay, so have we got our winner? I mean, it was the first one to appear with the correct answer.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we have a winner, Liz Robinson. You have the right answer and you were the first one to answer. So very fast and very successful. Great job.
Talia, do you want to tell them now or tell her now how she can get her gift card, or do you want to do that later?
Sure, I'll repeat it also later, but you will get an Amazon gift card later on in your inbox after this event. Thank you, Liz, and congrats.
Okay, so what you're all waiting for, let's get started with the RQI overview. Why is high quality CPR so important? Well, survival rates are not improving. And kudos for Liz for getting the answer correct on our questions that we asked. The answer was 75% of patients who experience an in-hospital cardiac arrest do not survive. And if you are outside of the hospital and you have a cardiac arrest, 90% are fatal. And that's just really sad, especially for the tools and resources that we have. High quality CPR is the single greatest determinant of survival from a cardiac arrest. Compression depth matters, and it takes practice to be able to develop those psychomotor skills to be able to perform high quality CPR. And if you hesitate for even a few moments or even have interruptions on the chest, it too is a factor that continues to decrease the survival rate. So why should you consider using RQI at your institution? Well, just as OADN is focused on excellence in nursing education, American Heart, Laerdal, and RQI partners are focused on excellence in CPR training. And we have modernized CPR training for mastery comprehension and skill acquisition. RQI is the new gold standard to develop competence, confidence, and ultimately to improve cardiac arrest outcomes. Verified competency is the new standard of care that is being adopted in hospitals across the U.S. By introducing your students to verified competency now, it will prepare your students with the skills and the competence they need to act if this happens in their clinicals. It prepares them to transition to practice in hospitals that have already adopted and are embracing this new standard. And lastly, it really prepares their mindsets from thinking of CPR as a check the box, I don't need to do anything for 2 years now, to actually embracing a lifelong journey of perfecting their critical skills. Outcomes have not been improving in the current CPR 2-year standards, and poor quality CPR is preventable. By moving to a mastery learning modality, more lives can be saved by competent and confident providers. And OADN membership schools can help to transform this CPR training. RQI program is a low-dose, high-frequency certification and competency program. It is self-directed. It's personalized for each student. The cognitive component is assessed by the student from any digital device to the course. And the students can complete this cognitive component either in one sitting or in multiple sittings. They can go at their own pace. The simulation station provides the deliberate practice of the core skills for high-quality CPR. And the skills are being performed with real-time feedback, debriefing, coaching, and remediation videos. Students will verify on this skill station every 3 months to ensure that they're competent in both the didactic and the skills. While your students are completing in this course, data is being collected on each student, and it's kept in the background on the platform so that you can review and evaluate these outcomes over time. Reports are readily accessible on the platform for you to be able to look at compliance, completion, and you will have access to their e-credentials immediately once they exit the course. So this is the end of my brief overview. We would like to address questions after we have our customer interview. So be sure to be putting your questions in the chat box so that we can address them. And at this point, I would like to turn the meeting over to Kim Flatland and one of our RQI early adopting schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. I'd like to now introduce to you Katie Carmichael, MSN, RN, Director of Simulation, and Kaylin Carter, Simulation Lab Coordinator at Wichita State University Tech, located in Wichita, Kansas. It's so wonderful to see you both again, and I'm happy you're here with us. So let's get started for a little conversation, shall we? Each of you, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and WSU Tech? Maybe share with us your role and the nursing programs that you offer there.
Sure. My name's Katie Carmichael, and I'm the Director of Nursing and Simulation here at WSU Tech. I get the opportunity to introduce new scenarios to our students and run simulations with them to help make them better critical thinkers and more prepared for their future practice. WSU Tech does offer 2 nursing programs. We have a practical nursing program with about 180 students, and we have an OADN program with about 50.
And I'm Kaylin Carter. I'm the Simulation Lab Coordinator here at WSU Tech, and I'm more of the technical guru. I get to handle a lot more of the technology, and I also get to see the students perform and run through RQI firsthand.
Kaylin, I know you said you're kind of the technical guru when you're running through the technology. Can you tell us where your RQI station's located?
It is actually located right in front of me in my office right now.
Excellent. And is that in the simulation lab or just your open office space?
My simulation lab is tangential to the simulation. My office is tangential to the simulation lab, and so it's right next door.
All right, so you have all your technology all at the fingertips of your students, it sounds like.
Yes, ma'am.
Speaking of the station being right in front of you there, maybe you could share with us the features of the simulation with skill station with us. What's
So
on that skill station?
the skill station comes with two half mannequins. One is an adult and one is an infant. On top of that, it comes with all the equipment needed, a ventilation bag, mannequin wipes, a laptop for them to be able to log in at the station and access the RQI web interface.
Excellent. And I think there's a step stool too, in case people need
There
to
is
be
a
able to
step
use their
stool.
proper positioning, right? I know. I only know that because I'm kind of short in stature and I definitely need that step stool. I know you mentioned that you kind of work with the students if they're struggling. Do the students become independent when they're testing out at the skill station, or do you need to be alongside of them every quarter when they're redoing their skills?
I think that's heavily contingent on the student. There's a handful of them, from the very first, the provider prep assignment, the very first interaction with the RQI machine, they're flying through with colors without any guidance from the interface whenever they do their blind baseline assessment. And there's others that, we're quarter four and I still have to snap my fingers or keep them on pace with the compressions.
Excellent. Well, it's a good thing that you're there for them when they're needed, right?
Absolutely.
I know that WSU Tech is an innovator in implementing competency-based nursing education solutions. What were the factors deciding to implement RQI?
So even though our students were BLS certified prior to getting into our program, we watched a lot of them struggle with CPR. I have many students who can't give the right depths or rate of compressions, and I have students that struggle with getting the correct seal on the ventilation bag or tilting the chin back and giving a proper rate of ventilation. And statistics have proven that practicing CPR more frequently and with better frequency increases the chance of saving those lives. So when we heard that RQI was offering this new program, we were just ready to jump on board.
And we're really so glad that you did. And I'm sure your students are too. So I know you implemented this program, but when did you actually begin using the RQI solution? And how many students have you had going through the program already?
So we actually started using it in spring of 2022. We began by implementing one cohort at a time. And as we saw success with the program, we added additional cohorts each semester. So we've already had around 120 students actually complete the program. And then we currently have about 160 enrolled.
And with those enrollment numbers, what impact has using RQI had on your students' ability to perform CPR?
Well, we still have the requirement that our students enroll with their BLS certification. And even though many of them just took a local CPR course or haven't worked in a clinical setting, they still struggle with performing CPR correctly. Primarily, I can see the students' growth and progress while practicing the CPR skills on the RQI skill station. And when comparing it to their initial performance to the subsequent quarterly skills, the difference is palpable. Using the stations with immediate feedback ensures that they are performing compressions correctly and allowing them to become more familiar with the application of the ventilation bag.
Kaylin, I know you mentioned that your students all kind of entered into the program with their BLS certification, and gathering all the students' credentials and keeping them compliant for clinicals can really take some significant time. Who handled this prior to RQI at your organization?
We actually have a clinical coordinator, and that was one of their primary duties.
And has RQI been able to assist with kind of card management improvement?
I would say definitely between having one streamlined base where we can pull all of their cards from and making sure that they all get them done in a timely manner.
Can I
Katie, I
interject
see
on
you
that
nodding
one?
your head
Yeah,
there.
I was saying,
I see you nodding your head.
we actually changed just this year to not make our students have their BLS certification prior to help them save money so that they don't have to double get, but it also has made it a huge, we had issues getting them into our system and making sure that they put their cards in and coming after them if they didn't and all of that good stuff. So we, now that we're able to get them right off of the site and print them off, it makes it so much easier to give to our clinical partners for them going into clinical.
So I know we have that compliance report that kind of can pull all of the RQI credentials or their cards for them. So it really sounds like that's alleviating a pain point, or was a pain point for your organization. Is that what I'm hearing you say, Katie?
Yes, for sure.
And I know that you talked about also saving them some money by not having them take their BLS prior, but now they're doing it on site. So can you talk a little bit about the cost that was involved on an outside course versus what's happening now with RQI? Because we know that, I mean, when you're a student, your time is valuable, but also your financial resources, right?
Yeah, so not only, unless they had an employer that provided them RQI prior to, or not RQI, sorry, BLS prior to, it would cost anywhere from $40 to $60 just to get that course. Now we actually put it into our student fees, and they can actually use their financial aid to help pay for that course, and then they don't have to worry about that cost on top of it.
Yeah, and with the courses outside of your school and the RQI program, I know typically there's a cost involved for like a book and then the e-credential or the credential, their card, and possibly having to drive to another location. Have the students made any comment about time saved or money saved after implementing this?
A
I
lot of
have
times
not heard any. Oh, you go ahead, Kaylin.
I was gonna say, a lot of times I'll catch students either leaving class on their way to class. And so I'm pretty sure that there's been a handful of times that a student has told me that they enjoy it this way because it's a lot more convenient for them to get it that way.
Excellent. What has been the biggest challenge, if any, with RQI? And how did you at WSU Tech overcome that or maybe address it?
Definitely the scheduling component of RQI has been difficult to get all of our students in and to get them to run through it. They're busy with work, school, and their own personal lives, and that can be quite the challenge. And what I've done to overcome that was I used a web-based platform called Calendly. It's a scheduling app, and the students can sign up for at will whatever time works best for them. We also added the incentive that they must complete RQI, their quarterly sessions, to be compliant for their clinical sites.
So they kind of have a deadline and a goal to meet by having to complete those skills and online portion before they can go to clinicals. Let's chat about this time situation for a minute, because it seems like we all have busy lives, right? So with that Calendly app, the students choose their own time frame. Do you have certain times that you've opened up for in the sim lab to be able to use the equipment, and then they test out at the skill station? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. So I have specific office hours, and some days go on a different time zone compared to others, or time frame compared to others. And so let's say for Monday, Wednesdays 8 to 5, and then Wednesday it's 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. depending on their availability.
That's great, because we all need to take back a little bit more time in our lives. That will actually give them more time to study, right? Spend time with family and probably work as well. Speaking about working and making sure they've got their certification up to date to go to clinicals, have you informed your clinical partners about your RQI adoption? And if so, what feedback have they had?
Yeah, well, we haven't informally or formally informed our clinical partners. We do have a few adjunct nursing faculty who do have leadership roles in some of the area hospitals. And RQI is utilized in 2 of our major hospitals already. So they're pleased that we have adopted it, because this does allow our students to be practice ready upon entry to clinicals and for their future employment.
So speaking of practice ready, Katie, are you finding that your clinical sites are finding your students more confident and competent to perform CPR if needed?
Yes, actually, we've had a couple of students that have even had scenarios where they've had to use their CPR skills, and they're very thankful that that we've had RQI for them to practice and be ready for that.
Oh, I'm so glad that they felt ready as well. So now that they are more competent and confident in their skills for CPR, have you been able to focus more on mock codes or make other changes with that?
We actually do a couple of things that outside of RQI to practice those mock codes, and we have seen a great improvement upon those. One thing that we do is we do a CPR escape room. And then another that we do is a simulation where our patient has a MI and they have to, at one point they go into and have a code. And so they have to run a code and call the crash, call the code team and all that good stuff. So, and like I said, before RQI, we had students all over the place when they're running their code. And now I feel like it's much more streamlined and they understand, the importance of communication as well as the correct, like staying on the chest, correct proper ventilation and compressions and everything that goes along with it.
Oh, that's wonderful. But what I'm really curious about, what is this escape room? Tell me a little bit more about that.
So
escape room.
I don't know if you've ever done an escape room before. I personally love them. I've done a lot with my husband.
Yeah.
We actually make it to where we have clues and locks around the room, and our students have to progress through those in this case medical skills to able to find the key for the next lock, and then they can unlock that and they get the next clue until they can literally get to the last lock on the door and escape from the room.
What a great thing to incorporate into a program. And I'm sure your students love it as well. Or maybe they get locked out and only get so far, but way to be innovative, right?
Yeah,
So,
they love it. They love it.
I love that. What are your RQI expansion plans?
So currently we run RQI with our PN partners, or students. We're planning to expand this program to include our ADN students in the future. But part of the reason we didn't include them yet is because we wanted to make sure everything was running smoothly with a smaller portion of students. And then the other reason is we were actually at 2 separate campuses until this fall. And we still need to also adopt it into our ADN program student fees. So we're planning to start this with the RN cohort next fall.
I love the fact that in time, we'll be able to compare your various cohorts and the new program that you're bringing on and kind of look at that analytical data. While Kaylin alluded to the fact that you guys are seeing performance improvements already, and with the analytical data that RQI offers, this along with the student skills performance for each one, have you had a chance to identify any future plans for your analytical data? Perhaps maybe you need to share it with administration, clinical partners that might be interested, or poster presentations or research?
Well, we've been super busy, and so I haven't completely gotten to look over the data. I love the idea of doing a poster presentation for sure. And then I would love to share it with our industry partners just to show that this is a great program and that our students are competent and getting even more competent as they progress through the program.
I agree. It has been a very busy and insightful year for you guys leading the program. So thank you for your commitment to that. And what has the implementation process been like for you as the administrator and including the financial process for the RQI program?
Yeah, the implementation process has actually been pretty smooth. We've had a few hiccups with our learning management system and how to best fit it for our students' needs just because of when they were in clinicals. So collaboration between WSU Tech, our ITAS department, and the RQI implementation project manager team has helped us find quick solutions. And then as far as paying for RQI, like I've said, we've decided to put it into our student fees so that instead of having an extra cost either on our institution or on the students, they can actually use financial aid for that.
Wonderful. Was there anything else from the questions we were having conversation on that you wanted to share? Otherwise, I think what I'm going to do is turn it back to Betsy and we'll open up for Q&A.
Not that I can think of.
All right.
Thank
Betsy,
you.
I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you, WSU Tech, for sharing your journey and your experiences. Wow, very informative. Thank you. So just as OADN supports lifelong learning and academic progression so that students can meet the nursing workforce and healthcare needs, RQI can empower and embolden students to be the best that they can be at performing a life-saving skill. RQI supports academic progression, and we can also add on to the foundational BLS course, PALS and ACLS. At this time, we want to show a SAVE story. And this story is about a student who's been using RQI at her school, and she left to go on a vacation. And so very powerful story when we want to share it with you. So I hope that you'll enjoy this.
My name is Brianna Connors. I am a senior at Anderson University, and I am studying nursing. I had just finished one of my last senior exams. I was going on vacation. I was excited. I was ready, and I had just gotten to the airport. I got to my gate, and as soon as I sat down, I heard someone say, "Does anyone know CPR?" At that point, I stood up, and I'm looking around, trying to figure out where that is coming from. I heard it again, and I just took off. I didn't know what direction I was going, but I just took off. And at that point, I saw a bystander and a lady who was laying on the ground. I was running in her direction, and I got there. I had my bag on my shoulder. I threw my bag, and I dropped to my knees. When I dropped to my knees, I was shaking her, trying to wake her up. She was not responding. I checked both of her pulses, no pulse. At this point, a retired nurse had arrived. She also checked her pulses. We both were trying to shake her. And at this point, we realized we needed to do CPR. So she started with compressions. And as she was doing compressions, I was counting for her. So I was doing 30 compressions. And then when it came to the breaths, I gave 2 breaths, mouth to mouth. This was actually my first time doing CPR on an actual person. So I was scared. I was really scared, but I knew that's what she needed. Her lips were blue, but I didn't care. Like, I just put my mouth on her lips and I was trying to give her as much air as I could. While we were going through this, we both were screaming, "We need an AED. Can someone bring us an AED?" Finally, a bystander had grabbed the AED. They ran up, they gave it to me, and we put it on this lady's chest. When we put the AED on, we delivered a shock. We obviously yelled, "Clear," make sure no one was touching her body, and then we continued CPR. I think we shocked her 3 times until we finally got a pulse back. And then at this point, when we got a pulse, the paramedics had arrived, and they kind of just took over. And then at that point, me and the retired nurse we parted ways. Because of RQI, I did have the confidence to go and help someone who was in need. I would definitely like to thank the university for implementing RQI because it has helped me prepare for the real world as a nurse.
Thank you for watching that with me. We are now going to take some questions. So I know that someone besides me has been looking at the chat. So do we want to get our panelists, our WSU Tech and myself on, and we're ready to take any questions that have come up?
Yeah, Betsy, I see a lot of questions. Thank you so much for all your great questions. Please keep them coming as we're looking at the Q&A. So the first one I have for you, I think Betsy, that's for you. So that's for an anonymous attendee. Does the credential expire at the 2-year mark still, or is the recertification required at a shorter interval?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yes, when you are performing the RQI program, you're going to get an initial certification. So that's your initial certification. And then as you do the quarterly perpetual assignments and you complete the card, your 2-year card updates. So the 2-year should never expire as long as you're doing your quarterly assignments. It just keeps pushing out from completion date 2 years.
Thank you, Betsy. So now we have the winner actually asking the question, Liz Robinson. Have you done any follow-up? So that's for Kaylin and Katie, actually. Any follow-up with graduating students from their current employers? Not sure if this data is being collected anywhere. You mentioned 120 have completed the program.
I will say, unfortunately, we haven't had too much data or follow-up from our students, primarily because we adopted this in spring of 2022. And so our recent graduation class of spring of 2023 were the first program that we had that had RQI embedded throughout the entirety of their experience here.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Kaylin. So now Cynthia Dolata is asking, how is your program paid for this resource? As well as how are your salaries paid for by the program? Yeah.
So we don't get any extra pay or anything on that sort. It's just put into our duties as simulation director and simulation coordinator. But the way that we made it to where it would work for our institution and our students is to pay for the program is to put it into our student fees. And so that way, as I said earlier, they are able to utilize their financial aid in order to pay for that and not just have to pay out of pocket.
Okay, thank you, Katie. So I see a lot more questions. That's great. Thank you very much. So another question from another anonymous attendee, still for Katie and Kaylin, is around student policies and procedures. Did you need to update those for how for the new way that they're actually learning CPR with the adoption of RQI? And would you be able to share how you worded those policies and procedures or an idea?
I can't think of any policies and procedures that we updated just because we already have mannequins in place that we're utilizing, and so we already have, procedures there. As far as we make sure that one of us is present when they are using the station, just in case we don't want them, doing anything that would promote damage to it or anything on that sort. And then we do have our students sign a simulation and skills lab policy guideline that talks about not having food or drinks and treating the mannequins with respect and all on that sort. And then they do sign that at the beginning of the program.
Okay, great. I hope it answered the question, anonymous attendee. So next one, I guess that would be more for Betsy, or if you want to add anything, Katie and Kaylin, feel free to jump on the answer too. How long does it take to do the cognitive and quarterly assignments?
Yes, thank you for that question. So time is very important, and we're saying how you're going to save time. So the initial certification that they would take with RQI, we know the cognitive will take about an hour or less. It is a true adaptive learning we use in the cognitive, so it adjusts to the student's current knowledge level. So on average, we've seen an hour and less for the cognitive, and it will take about 30 minutes for the skill. So you're looking at an hour and 30 to get their first certification. As they move on and do their quarterly perpetual, The cognitive is only a piece of the full BLS course each quarter. And we've seen that that takes anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes for the cognitive, and it'll take about 10 minutes at the station. So you're looking about another 30 minutes. The more familiar they get with the station and they're doing the same core 4 skills every quarter, the faster it will be for them to get through those skills. I hope that answered your question. And please add in Katie or Kaylin if you
And to
have
add
your
to your quarterly times, I schedule or put in the calendar 15-minute time increments, and 90% of the students tend to get the mannequin activity done within that 15 minutes.
Okay. Thank you both. So another question is around clinical partners. We mentioned them earlier. So Betsy, would you be able to share with us how many hospitals in the US are currently already using RQI? I think we have a map, right?
Yes, please pull up the map. So this is ongoing. We just had our 5-year anniversary. We have over 2,500 hospitals across the US. Wrong slide. There we go. Thank you. So the hospitals across the US, and we can even hone in a little bit, but we're constantly having hospitals come on board. So I'm sure that there should be some within your area. But this kind of gives you an overview. And then, of course, the CAPS are where we have all the nursing schools that are now currently adopted the RQI.
Perfect. Katie, Kaylin, do you see your school there?
Yes, right in the middle.
Smack dab in the middle.
Perfect. And you can see there's a lot of clinical partners around them also who have adopted RQI. Thank you for that question. So another thing that Kim Flatlin mentioned was books. So Betsy, are books included in this program? Do you need books?
Yes, the student does not need to purchase an extra book. It is embedded into the course. And in fact, as they're going through the course, if they need to reference the manual, it is right there at their fingertips for them to use. They can also create self-tests. So after they've done the material, you can go in and create little tests and, enhance your knowledge and continue to build on that right there on the platform in their course. And they can do that from a phone, any digital device. So they are not coming to the skill station to do their cognitive. That is done strictly on their own at a computer, iPad, phone.
Thank you, Betsy. Perfect. And then the next question is actually around the costs. What new fees does this incur? Is there maybe another model where the student could be paying, since they're currently paying actually for the course that they're enrolling in outside of the school?
Yes. So with the RQI, we have several different business models. We can do a school pay, which is a traditional business model where your school will determine how many RQI courses they need. Or we can do a student pay. So if you don't have the upfront funding from your school because you haven't budgeted for it previously, we will build the platform for you. You can enroll your students. And then when the student logs in for the first time, they would pay via PayPal. And both of our programs, our foundation program is 100 students. And in the student pay, even in shorter programs, we have the option not only for a 12-month subscription, but also a 15-month if that fits better for their program. And of course, if you choose to have a little bit of both, student pay as well as school pay, we can do that as well.
Perfect. Well, I hope that answered. There was also a second question about this. So I hope that answered both of your questions. If it didn't, please feel free to send another question about the costs. The next question is around the time. So that's for Kaylin and Katie. How much time does it take, let's say, each month for you to oversee the program? How time consuming is this?
For each month, it's kind of tough. For each quarter, it's a little bit easier because I can just do the math, 15 times from 120 students, which I don't have a calculator on hand, but it's only a few hours out the quarter.
And then on the administration side, I do look up to see how students are progressing and how many have gotten through the quarter. And I'll send out emails saying, hey, you need to get this done before clinicals or you'll be out of compliance. So that part, it doesn't take very long either, maybe an hour or two each quarter.
Perfect, thank you. So we mentioned also a lot of studies that support the RQI program. So the next question is about having a reference list with the studies that support the science of RQI. But did you want to share something, and maybe we can share after the event this list?
Yes, absolutely. We've got the foundational study that was done by Dr. Orman and Dr. Cardon Egren, and there's tons of other literature that supports that skills decay within 3 to 6 months. So we'd be happy to send out a list of those reference articles, as well as Dr. Orman's study.
Perfect. Thank you. So we talked about expansion plans for WSU Tech. So there is a question about if the faculty can take the course as well. And what about other departments? Is it just for nursing, or can there be other departments join this program?
So we can have our faculty take it as well. It's just an extra license. And then, yes, other programs can definitely join in as well. We are starting as slowly as possible to get everybody on board and making sure it runs smoothly. But yes, our Surge Tech program could possibly be interested in it in the future, and our EMT program as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
And once the platform is built for your school, it's your program to enroll whoever in your school needs a BLS certification and wants to continue to practice and be compliant. So, or competence, I should say.
Yeah. Thank you both, and thank you for those questions. So I see a couple more questions. Is it required that the person supervising be a BLS instructor? I know the question, but I'll let Kayla and Katie answer that.
Me, myself personally, was not a BLS instructor when I started helping the students with it. So from my experience, no, you don't.
Perfect. Thank you. So then there's a question about the references. So we'll definitely send that out afterwards. Another question is, what happens if a student misses a quarter? Do they lose their 2-year certification?
No, they do not. What ends up happening is that their previous quarter becomes overdue, and in order to complete the subsequent quarter, they'll have to go back and complete the overdue quarter on top of the currently due quarter.
Perfect. Thank you, Caitlin. Another question, so we mentioned having, yes, thank you. I see Betsy. So just to be clear, we mentioned the platform learningrqi.com, and that is the site to go to, the reference AHP Science and Studies. So we can definitely, do you want to send out the link maybe, Betsy? Just so that people can directly go. So learningrqi.com is the site that Betsy will put in the chat, where you can find all the references to the AHP Science and Studies that support this RQI program. A last question, but not least, we mentioned so once this program is implemented in your systems, so can this program be actually used on an LMS, a learning management system? Caitlin, Katie, do you want to talk about your experience with that?
Yes, we have it through our LMS, so it makes it nice and easy for the students just to go through our system, click on the link, and go into the RQI platform and get completed. And then it can actually read back who's completed it and put it into our gradebook to make sure that we can see from our gradebook that it's been completed.
Perfect. Thank you. Betsy, do you want to add anything here?
I would just add that we have worked with several different learning management systems. If you do not want to go through your learning management system, we also can call it, we can also use direct, which we call enterprise. So that would just be a direct link to the American Heart site. So it is your choice, whatever works best for your organization.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Oh, I see. I think I missed. Well, you just have a couple of minutes left, but I see some. Let me just pick one last question in the chats that were not posted in the Q&A. Okay, I think we kind of touched upon it a bit more, but since there's a question, maybe we can say it a different way. So, Betsy, can you help us understand how does someone, a learner, maintain quarterly updates after the student graduates?
Yeah, so, okay, that great question. So once your student finishes, they have a card. It's an American Heart card. It's a 2-year card. They can take to any hospital, whether they're doing RQI or not, and show that they're certified. If it's an RQI hospital, they can just be incorporated right into their current RQI program, and they'll continue that journey. So it actually will, ones that are the hospitals that are already doing RQI, it makes it a little bit easier in their orientation. They're already familiar with the station, and they just matriculate in very seamlessly. And so then they'll continue that quarterly journey. So I hope that answers your question.
Exactly. And that's why we showed you the map of all the clinical partners across the US. It's very seamless once the hospital already has RQI to just transfer that credential over, and it's also this card can be used across hospitals and institutions and any institution. So it's definitely something that is easily reusable. Thank you, Barbara, for that question. So I see we only have a couple of minutes left. Thank you so much for all your questions. For those that we have not answered, we will definitely reach back out to you and make sure we answer your question. In the meantime, Dr. Lamartina, we'd love to hear some closing thoughts that you may have.
Sure, thank you so much. Gosh, I just think this has been a tremendous learning opportunity this afternoon. I feel like I've learned a lot more about RQI, and I thought I already knew a lot about it. So thank you. I just want to say thanks to our WSU Tech colleagues for sharing your experience and how you navigated through. It obviously wasn't without challenge, but I sure think it's worth every challenge to get to where you guys are. I want to thank Laerdal just for bringing those simulation modalities to our education places, and for what it does for nursing ed. And we know those kind of low dose, high risk type of experiences and scenarios require repetitive practice and learning, and that RQI can really provide that for something like CPR. So that's terrific. And finally, just a reminder, at OADN, we are very committed to lifelong learning, and we're very thankful for our partnership with Laerdal for what that brings to our member schools. And just remember, through that partnership, that our schools can bring this RQI program to your campuses for potentially no upfront cost to your school. And maybe we can see this today as kind of a call for action to really consider bringing this to your campus as something that would really help your learners to transition to practice in a stronger way and be more confident and competent in this important skill. And I would be remiss to say, I hope we see many of you here in just a few weeks at our annual convention in San Diego. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lamartina. Those were very thoughtful words. And thank you to all the speakers. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for your great questions. We hope you gained a lot of insights about the Resuscitation Quality Improvement Program today and the opportunity to adopt it at no upfront cost to your school. So again, the winner, Liz Robinson, you will receive a $25 Amazon gift card in your inbox shortly. Following this event, you will all receive an email with the recording, and a Laerdal representative will reach out to you to answer all of the remaining questions. and hope to have a good follow-up conversation about the RQI program. Please feel free to reach out as well at laerdal.com/RQI for nursing, or you can also scan the QR code on the screen that is appearing right now. If you have any specific questions, we'd love to answer that following this event. Thank you all and have a great rest of your day.